So last week, Reverend Margie spoke about the very beginnings of our spiritual community. She spoke about the waymakers who made the way on this island so Unity Church of Hawaii could just be this robust spiritual community for everyone in this, the Pacific Rim and those that are traveling from the mainland. And 83 years later, we're still here. And that's remarkable. And today I was also called to give a transformation story, a story of transformation as we do once a month. And many of you may know my story of how I ended up here at Unity Church of Hawaii. And for the benefit of the doubt, I will tell it anyway because there may be some people that don't know that story. Years ago, I was married. I was in the Department of Defense, and I was working a lot. And with that work came time away from the family. And I had prioritized work, making sure as an anti-terrorism officer, making sure people were safe overseas, and just really focused on that. And I had a newborn son, I had my daughter, my son, my older son, and little by little, I was also married to an Air Force member. Little by little, I started drifting away from that motherly aspect and more professional, and just focused completely on that after a while. And with time away and everything like that, it just was really difficult on our relationship. Well, eventually things led to a divorce. And ultimately, a judge decided that because my ex-husband was more available than I was, that he would get custody of our now 2-year-old son. And that was heartbreaking. As a mother, as just a person having a child, especially that age, leave. And at the time, I thought they were going to Japan. And I saw them take off on a plane, and at that moment in time, I heard a voice tell me, as clear as I can hear myself right now, I had a voice tell me, take this time to grieve. The real work begins soon. I did not know what that voice was. Well, there was something that knew that it was this higher self. I had not done any religious studies, and anybody that knows me back in the day, I used to joke about reading the Bible and, but I was more of a party animal. And so when I heard that voice, suddenly things became very real. And I took time to grieve. And eventually I found an author named Florence Scovel Shinn, and she opened my mind up to this realm that my mind, my spoken word, my thoughts were creative in nature. Suddenly, I started reading more and more New Thought literature and began to ask the universe, what is mine to do? Please bring me peace and all the other things that go along with a grieving heart. Eventually, I was given a sign that I needed to leave, put in my letter of resignation with the Department of Defense, and move to Hawaii. And eventually on Hawaii, I found out that my son and my ex-husband were here. And we reunited. We're great friends now. But before any of that could happen, I had to find this community. When I first started coming to this community, before I even knew they were here on this island, I went to the Wednesday prayer meditation services. I lit a candle at one of the candle lighting station right over there, and just blessed my ex-husband, blessed the judge, blessed the situation, my son, of course, my entire family. I did releasing in I want to call it the burning bowl, and just doing spiritual practices, it became such a ritual, such a habit for me that I felt ultimately peace. And soon after I came on island, after I found this community, I started the C classes, and then I found out that my son was here, and like I said earlier, we reunited. And now my ex-husband and I are great friends. Had to do a lot of forgiveness work, but this community here was so pivotal in that turning of my mindset. I just thank God that it was here to support me in my journey, to support me in my growth. And everyone that was here during that time and those that are still here along for the ride, I just give you thanks for being just the wonderful people that you are, these God people showing up every day. And without all of you, without God, of course, none of this would have been possible. And so my transformation story is about really embedding yourself in a spiritual community, picking up spiritual practices, having tools that are like the ones that are given here at Unity Church of Hawaii, going to the classes and doing the inner work, because that is the only place where the real work can be done. If you mess with out there, you're going to be messing in vain. Everything, consciousness begins with you. And once I realized that, and once I realized that I had to change my mindset, and once I realized that I had the support of this community, I was already on my way. And so thanks again. I just am very thankful for this opportunity to share my transformation story. There's more of it online if you want to look at it. It's called, I think it's in November of not Johanna's way, but it's a gratitude story with myself and Christopher Vaughn, given back in November 2014. And so when looking at these 83 years, we know that many people have come through the doors. Many lives have been transformed, have been changed, and it's because of the early waymakers, the people that said yes and continued to show up and could see the vision and put it into action, that we're still here today. And all of us that continue to show up and continue with this vision and put it into action every day, moment by moment. And so we are also, so they created a legacy, but we're carrying on that legacy. And legacy is created, like I said, day to day, thought by thought, word by word, and deed by deed. So we just don't build something and then leave it be. There has to be always action taken upon that. And that's what the fifth unity principle is all about. It's about that action. It's about going within, knowing the God self within, but then ultimately taking those steps towards something that can be built even more. And so we don't ever, this is not a finished product. Believe me, Unity Church of Hawaii will continue on for 83 more years, plus, indefinitely, let's say, but we all need to continue to show up. Even through the times where it may seem that things are difficult, we may not agree with one another, but in the end, if we can just say yes to the Spirit within, to that God within, and know that God and God only is the reason why we're showing up, then I know that we'll be successful as a community. And legacy also focuses on what will endure. It's about the passing on the things of lasting value to those who will live on after us. And what are we passing on in this community to the future generations, to Ralph's grandkids, my kids, your great-grandkids, right? And also my great-grandkids, your great-grandkids. Will they be able to come here and still feel the Spirit that first abides within? Will they be able to walk through these doors and say, you know what, my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather used to come here? And will they have the same transformative experience in their life as I hope that you've had in yours? And this is why we do this every day. This is why we say yes. This is why we do board service, and we have book studies, and we go to C classes, because we're here for that inner transformation. And legacy also involves living intentionally and aiming to build into the next generations for their success. We are building for our children, our children's children, and our children's children's children. There we go. I said it 3 times. Yeah. And it also asks the question, what is the most significant thing to pass on to future generations, and how should we go about achieving that? What is important right now that we can foresee in the future that we should be able to pass on to them? What type of values do we have right here and right now that we know are enduring and that will be needed moving forward? And when we examine legacy, when I examined legacy, I also looked at both this personal aspect as well. So this past week, I spent time in Los Angeles, and I had my COVID-19 test, and it was negative. And so, yay, I'm here able to give this talk. And I flew in to Los Angeles to go college and apartment shopping with my daughter, Leilani. Now, some people may not know this, but I don't really like plane rides. First of all, they seem kind of boring. Second of all, turbulence is a little different for me, even though I was in the Air Force, but I didn't fly no planes. And so I get a little agitated while on planes. But when I was on that plane there, it was a 5-hour ride, and I started to get to thinking, because that's what plane rides do for me. I start thinking about things, and I started to realize that I was flying somewhere to meet my daughter, because she had already flown before me, and how time had passed. I started thinking about when she was in a diaper, and she used to walk around in high heels with a cute little booty sticking out, and I started thinking about when she was on the playground at 5 years old, and then when she was here on campus at 10, running around with the other kids of Unity. And now we are doing some serious grown-up stuff together. And I also realized that I was thankful that I had prioritized my family instead of staying on island thinking that I had to work. I realized that I had changed, that I had put family first. The 10-year-ago Johanna would have been, would have said, I got to stay here and do work. But you know what? I've grown. And so I was happy to feel that. But then also I was sad because I started to realize that one of these days she was going to be all grown up, maybe kids of her own, starting a career, and then I'd be just a tad bit older. And what was I leaving behind for her? What type of values had I instilled in her so she can carry that out into the world? What personal legacy was I leaving for my children that they could find value in and bring forward to their children and for generations to come? And that's why I don't sit alone for 5 hours, because I start thinking about all types of stuff. And so the plane ride was a reflection time. And in the Bible, we also hear about legacy, the importance of it. In 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5, Paul says to Timothy, "For I am mindful of the sincere faith within you, which first dwelt in your grandmother and your mother, and I'm sure that it is in you as well." That sometimes we leave behind because your grandparents were a certain way, people may automatically believe that you are that. And so are we leaving behind a legacy that where people, when they mention your name, or your grandparent or your grandkids mention your name, somebody might say, "Oh, I knew her. She was a wonderful, caring soul." And this is in the New Testament in showing us that this is true, that the legacies that our grandparents leave behind and our parents, they do follow us. They do stick with us, and people will know us from those. And our legacy also helps to provide hope for a future. In John chapter 14, verse 27, Jesus says, "This peace I leave with you, and I give to you, and not like the world gives it." And he was leaving a legacy. He was leaving behind a hope and a dream that we all can attach to. That ultimately, that peace abides within, that the Spirit of heaven is within, that the Christ is within, and that we don't need to look any further. And what a beautiful legacy that was. And just last week as well, the New Thought community lost a powerful act to follow. Dr. Barbara Lewis King made her transition last Sunday as well. And if you don't know who Dr. Barbara is, she came here in 2015 and gave a talk titled "The Power of a Dream." And there were people sitting in the pews, or I think they were seats, and she asked everyone to stand up if they had a dream that they did not go after some point in time in their life. And there was not a single soul in this chapel that was not standing. But when we don't chase dreams or if we don't follow through, we miss out on the opportunity to create a legacy. She created a legacy 49 years ago when she decided to start Hillside International Truth Center in Atlanta. And from there, you have Oprah Winfrey, just big names coming there, and lives and testimonies of people who were transformed as well. But hadn't she followed that dream and that inner calling, that Spirit was calling her to be much bigger than what the mind was telling her. If she hadn't followed that, maybe this transformation, maybe these lives wouldn't have been changed. And in the New Thought community, that's what we're all being called to do. That these legacies that we leave behind, we're actually creating right now. And I want you to take some time, just this moment, to think about your own legacy. To think about what is alive in you to do. Is there a dream that the mind has told you is too big, or is impossible, or can't be done? Is there something within your mind that tells you that it's not achievable? That could be your legacy right there. That could be where future generations now benefit because you said yes to an idea. And remember, all ideas, all good ideas are from that one good source, God the Omnipotent. And when we follow that, and we put our faith in that, only good can happen. Can you imagine if we didn't start 83 years ago, if it wasn't started here, if it was just too good to be true, or an impossible dream? These good things that manifest in our lives are usually created by people who are daring enough to go forward and follow it. And thereby they create these legacies for us to follow and for us to just be willing to say yes to Spirit. That's what each one of us is called to do. And so our condolences going to, of course, Hillside International Truth Center for their loss and for this world's loss of a great spiritual leader. Now, legacies can go other ways. So I'm talking about the good legacies. But there are legacies that are left behind that are not so good. And in examining our life, bit by bit, individually, so this individual examination, is there something in your life right here, right now, that you don't want people to remember you by? It could be an attitude. I know sometimes I have an attitude. I don't want people to remember me by that. That's right. Ralph is snapping his fingers at me right now because sometimes I get a little bit diva-ish. And do I want to be remembered as that? Or do I want to be remembered as a kind person, a generous person, a person that was trustworthy, that showed up in integrity, that showed up with compassion? Moment by moment, this legacy that I leave my children and I leave this world is being built by my actions, by my words that I'm speaking. And so in examining that, we have to just really hone in on where, and be honest with yourself. That's okay. You don't have to be honest with the entire world, but be honest with yourself. Where are you? Could you stand to use a bit more kindness in your life? Love, compassion. Well, if so, then be that first. You can't receive anything that you aren't. At first, remember, everything exists within first, goes out, and then is reflected and mirrored back to us. And this is what we teach in New Thought, that these thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. And I'm going all off a script right now. I don't even know but I'm just allowing Spirit to do what Spirit does. And with the legacies we hope to create, we hope that they're very positive. Okay, but legacies can go, like I said, another way. I've heard countless stories of people in their dying moments with regrets. And to live and then to transition with a regret, I can't imagine that feels very good. The regrets usually are the dreams not followed, or the kind acts that were not done, or the things they wish they could have done over. And realizing now we're here in the flesh, we're breathing, we're living. This is our point of power. That if you take that deep reflective look, like I said, you ain't got to be honest out there, but you got to be honest within here. And you take that look and ask yourself, what do I need more of? And that's what I give more of. What dream am I not following that has been on my heart that I should be? What legacy am I leaving for future generations? But I've also heard of family members recounting, especially at funerals and every other celebration of life, the beautiful legacies people leave behind, of how they transformed lives, how they inspired generous acts of kindness. And these, I would hope, are the things that we can at least say that we've done and people can recall and recount in their own testimony that Ralph was so nice and so generous that it just spawned something within me to be that way, which spawned something within my daughter to be that way, and so on and so forth. Those are the real accomplishments. And then for this community, we've had some ups and downs. Let's be honest with ourselves as well. We have been at some high levels and at some very low levels as well. But at those lowest points, that was the prime opportunity for growth. And guess what? We are growing. We are growing again. We're doing that individual work. We are showing up. We are saying yes to Spirit. But it takes each one of us. I can't do it by myself. Reverend Margie can't do it by herself. Thomas Gallagher, Alethea, everybody that I can name off the membership list. If I didn't name you, I just can't name everybody. But this is the call for this community, is that if we want to leave something of value, we have established our values. But we want to make sure that what we leave behind is something that people can remember, that Unity Church of Hawaii was a beacon of light for spirituality. And if they can't say that right here, right now, no worries. We still have time. But we got to start right now. Each one of us is that point of power. Johanna showing up in love, in respect, and kindness. I guess it starts with me, Ralph. That's what I'm being told right now. It starts with me. All right. So it's all me, apparently. But in this community, in 83 years from now, what can they say? What lives did we change? What lives were saved because somebody found the God within and changed their mind about who and what God is? We may not be able to know all of those stories, but I am certain that as we continue to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, that we will continue to create stories like that. If we say yes and the willingness to show up in this community for God and for God only, and that God is always within you, then success is inevitable. Now, when I was in high school, we didn't have, I'm not going to date myself, but we had pagers and just very basic cell phones. But I had a daily planner that I got. And in that daily planner, there was a poem entitled, "Have You Earned Your Tomorrow?" by Edgar Guest. And the poem goes, Is anybody happier because you passed his way? Does anyone remember that you spoke to him today? The day is almost over, and its tolling time is through. Is there anyone to utter now a kindly word of you? Can you say tonight, in parting with the day that's slipping fast, that you helped a single brother of the many that you passed? Is a single heart rejoicing over what you did or said? Does a man whose hopes were fading now with courage look ahead? Did you give a cheerful greeting to the friend who came along, or a churlish sort of howdy and then vanished in a throng? Were you selfish, pure, and simple as you rushed along the way, or is someone mighty grateful for a deed you did today? Did you waste the day or lose it? Was it well or sorely spent? Did you leave a trail of kindness or a scar of discontent? As you close your eyes in slumber, do you think that God would say, "You have earned one more tomorrow by the work you did today"? And I used to know that by heart. And when I read that poem, I think I was 16 years old at the time, it affected me. It made me realize that I do make a difference, that I am important in this world, that there is something and someone out there that is just waiting for a smile or for me to take action to make it better. There is something that only I can do that no one else will be called to do. And will I say yes to that? Will I create this legacy that is worth living and for others to emulate in the future? And when we look at legacy, really we are looking at what we're creating today that we will be leaving behind. Long after we are gone, individually and collectively, what will people remember about our lives? What will people remember about this community? What was the impact that each one of us had in this world? These are very important questions to ask. And if you ask them and go within and answer honestly, I believe you will have that moral compass that will never steer you wrong. Remember, our point of power is now. Don't only dream big, pursue it. The world needs more doers. Thank you. Create your legacy, and God bless.